All right, so this is the 1.1 warm-up. This is going to go over the stuff that we talked about: slope, how to find the equation of the lines, how to graph it, all that stuff. So the first one says to sketch the graph with the point -1, 2, and slope 2/3. So I'm going to start on my y-axis at -1, 2, and then use my slope, which is 2/3. Positive 2/3 means go up 2 and over 1, 2, 3, and then draw your line. Questions on that one? Biggest mistake made is like, did I do it wrong? Up 2 and over 3. Yeah.
Is 2 points okay? Do you want to say?
2 points in a line is totally fine. Yeah, 2 points in a good question. 2 points in a line is fine. When you start getting to parabolas or circles or that kind of stuff, when we go back to like what we were doing in our point 2, if you need, like I would say 3. And if they don't come from the x and y intercepts, then plot some extra points. Okay, but if you get 3 from the x and y intercepts, you're good to go. You can kind of form your graph. All right, number 2 says find the slope and the y-intercept of 5x minus 3 equals y. So for this one, I'm going to solve it for y first. So it's just in reverse order, that's all. It's already solved for y. Whatever's in front of the x is your slope. So m would be 5. And remember, the y-intercept you want to give me in point form. Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Easy mistake made is just flipping those, so make sure you put the y's in the top. So -12 minus 6 over 7 minus a -5 becomes +5. I get -18 over 12, and then you want to make sure you reduce this. So this would be 3 goes into both those, -6, 4, go further, -3 halves. So slope is as reduced as it can be. Number 4, find the equation with m being -2 passes through point 2, -3. So you could either take that, plug it into point slope or slope intercept, whatever you're the most comfortable with. If I'm given slope and a point, I tend to plug it into point slope, but it doesn't mean you have to do the same thing. So point slope y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. My y1 is -3, so minus a -3 becomes +3. The m is -2. And then the x1 is 2, and then I just solve that. So you want to put these answers in slope-intercept format, unless it says otherwise. So y plus 3 equals distribute, and then subtract the 3. And there's the equation of the line. Questions on that one? Okay, and then 5 says find the equation of a line that passes through 3, 4, and -2, 5. So what's the first thing I've got to do? Find the slope. So the slope's not given this time. So 5 minus 4 over -2 minus 3 gives me a slope of 1 over -5. So that's my m. And then I can pick either point. I could have picked the 3, 4 or the -2, 5. If there's something with a 0, obviously I pick that because it's easier, but in this case they're both numbers, doesn't really matter. I can pick either one, so I'll start with the first one. Y minus y1 would be 4 equals -1/5 x minus 3. Distribute the -1/5 and then add the 4. So 4 over 1 becomes 20 over 5. And I get y equals -1/5 x plus 23 over 5. You can leave it like that as long as that y-intercept is simplified. If you want to put it into mixed number format, you can. Doesn't matter. If I was going to graph that, obviously, I'd have to put it in mixed number. Yep, Emily. If the negatives is with the 1 or out front or with the 5, doesn't matter as long as can't have 2 negatives because it makes positive. Yeah. All right, number 6 says find the slope of a line that is A parallel and B perpendicular to the equation from 5. So what is the slope from that equation? -1/5. So the slope of a line that is parallel to that would be what? -1/5. And the slope of a line that is perpendicular to that would be 5, +5. Good. For 6, yeah, you just need A and B. negative 1/5 and positive 5. If it had asked you for the equation of a line that is perpendicular to it or parallel to it, it would have had to give you another point. So it would have given you another point. I would have used A, negative 1/5 to find that, and then for B, I would have used 5 with the point to find that. So there was 2 in the homework like that, I think.
Did they give you another point? Didn't they give you points in question?
That's the equation of that line, though. So if you're finding the slope of a line that is parallel to it, the only thing you're using 5 for is to get the slope, and then they would have given you another point, and then I would have used this slope and the new point. Does that make sense? And then the perpendicular slope and the new point.
Questions that ask for the equation, are we allowed to just leave it in point slope?
No. So unless it states to leave it in point slope or standard form, you always want to put it in a slope intercept format. So unless it states otherwise, slope intercept, or y equals mx plus b. Good question. Any other questions in the warm-up? Okay, any questions from R.1 or R.2? So R.1 was your circles, right? Your midpoint, your distance formulas, all those. Any questions on how to do any of that stuff? Yep.
If you're given a triangle and it's a right triangle, then would you find all 3 sides and then plug it in?
Exactly. So everybody heard Emily. But if you're given and it says to show that it's a right triangle or classify it as a right triangle, you'll find the distance of all 3 sides and then plug it in a squared plus b squared equals c squared, showing that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If it was isosceles, you're showing that 2 sides are the same. If it's equilateral, you're showing all 3 sides are the same.
Could you go over what is all this symmetrical or not?
So symmetric, so now that's R.2 is symmetric, right? So if you're finding the x-axis symmetry, you're going to plug in the negative y. So if I had something like x squared plus y equals 3, let's just say, okay? If I'm trying to figure out if it's symmetric to the x-axis, I plug in a negative y. Simplify this, so I'd get x squared minus y equals 3. And then you want to see, does that equal your original equation? So is this exactly the same as that? In this case, is it? No. The other option is that all of the signs have switched. The y has switched, but not the x squared or the 3. So this would be not symmetric to the x-axis. Then you want to check for the y-axis. So the y-axis, I plug in a negative x. So I'd get negative x squared plus y equals 3. When I square a negative, it goes back to being positive. So this time it matches my original, symmetric to the y-axis. And then the origin is last. And for that, I plug in a negative x and a negative y. So I'd get negative x squared minus y equals 3. The x doesn't change, the y does, and the 3 doesn't, which means it would not be symmetric to the origin as well. God bless you. And then your intercepts, remember I would plug in a 0 for x to find the y-intercepts, plug the 0 in for y to find the x-intercepts, okay? And then remember these questions, it's going to put it all together and ask you to graph it. So you can graph it based on the intercepts. You can use symmetry to help you. If you still don't have a graph, you still don't know how to graph it, then plot some points, okay? Hopefully that helps you get you enough information to graph it. Any other questions from R1 or R2? You feeling good? As ready as you're going to be? All right. So it would